Hi there. I hope this sparkle stops in a second. Well, that was fun. Different kind of introduction. Anyways, I'm here and the title of this presentation live is Good to the Last Drop. This is something I have wanted to do for months, and I have stockpiled bottles and tubes and pumps and thought one day I'm going to do this. Well, tonight is the night. Everybody's out. I got the house to myself and I can do what I want. So we're going to start with what you already know. Big things like bottles. Okay, this happens to be from my laundry room. What do I do when this is done? Well, good to the last drop. You use the last capful, and then what I do is I fill this with water. And then I shake it up when it's empty. And I will fill up, I don't know, as much as I think it needs, and then really shake it and then dump it. And then I know I've got what's stuck to the plastic inside out of the bottle. So that's big, and that works for big bottles and little bottles. This is a bath product, but this would work with a shampoo bottle even. And probably most of you already do this, but some people don't think that there's anything in the inside. You will be surprised what sticks to plastic. And of course, you want to recycle. And of course, the recycling depots want everything to be cleaned, just like your milk. Your milk carton, you rinse it out and then you leave the lid off. Same with these. But with this, I just, put a 1/8 of a cup, 1/4 of a cup of water in, shake it up, and then dump it into the bath because this happens to be a bath product. And then I know I've got everything out of it. Okay, so once that's done, so we've done bottles. Now, tubes are pretty easy. Whether they're this big of a tube or this big of a tube, it doesn't really much matter. To get, when you're squeezing and you know it's not coming out and you're shaking it like crazy to get it to come out, here's what I do. Okay, so this happens to be a skincare product, and this is it revised. Okay, so what I do when I'm coming down to the end, any tube, it doesn't matter, any product, well, except toothpaste. I don't do this with toothpaste. It'd be awfully messy. There's other ways to get the toothpaste out of the tube, but just general plastic tubes that you can recycle, so that you can see there's product still in here. What I do is when I can't shake it out anymore and I'm frustrated and I'm squeezing and I'm not getting enough, I'll just cut the tube. And usually I'll cut it about halfway. And then what I do is I get my finger in the center and I take whatever, you will be surprised what's stuck there, and then I scrape it onto the bottom, okay? And then I put it in there, and then sometimes I have to shake it down a bit. Now, obviously, you can't squeeze this anymore for it to come out here because there's no pressure, there's no whole tube anymore. But what you'll find is the top that you've cut off will fit neatly. Sometimes I have to crumple the bottom part, and I just squeeze the two together. And I mean, this has been cut like this probably for several months. The product has not dried out. So when I need it, I just open it, put my finger in, use it, and then put this, what I'm now going to call the lid, which is the top of the tube. So that's how you get every last drop from inside any kind of tube. I've even done that with shampoo. The other thing you can do with shampoo, although this has a very small aperture, is sometimes I will squeeze it and then run it under water, or squeeze it and release while the tap is running and get water in here. And that's another secret way you can, and then you shake it all up, right? So that you've got your shampoo unstuck, but you can cut it as well. So bottles and tubes are pretty straightforward, but where I find my clients don't necessarily, just let me talk about one other tube. Your tube may look different. It may just not have a lid. It may have roller balls. It may have a little metal lip on it. Doesn't matter. Even with my roller balls, I make them ineffective at the end, but this is an expensive product and it's a serum. And so again, I do the cut in half-ish. This is on an angle. Scoop it out with my finger, what's there, scrape it off, and put the lid on. And then of course, every time I cannot use the little roller balls again, because there's no way to squeeze this properly because I've created a break in the seal there. So I just dip in, and you can use a Q-tip as well if your finger is too big. So that's a different type of tube with a different type of end. So you can do the same thing with that. Now we get into pumps, and this has caused people so much grief. And I'm not afraid to take things apart. So if there's a message to this good to the last drop, it's don't be afraid to take things apart. So this is a clear bottle, and you can see it's got a pump. Okay, it's got a plastic tube, so it's supposed to pump up that. You create suction by pushing, right? And then you pump. Okay, so what happens with any pump, if it is not working, you don't just hit it. Sometimes, because that's ineffective, sometimes you have to take this out and make sure, like this is clear so I can see it's not stuck on the bottom flush, but sometimes you have to take it out and take a pair of scissors and cut it at a 45-degree angle. That way, if it's flat on the bottom at a 45-degree angle, there's enough of a space for that product to go up the tube. Okay, so let's say that's not the problem with the tube. Let's just say you're pumping away and it's not working. Whoops, that was not the thing to do. Okay, so with a pump, any pump, when it's not working for you, what you do is you push down, whoops, something came out, a little bit of water, and put your finger right where the hole is. Put your finger on it and then let it rise up. Push down, put your finger on it, let it rise up. What am I doing? I'm creating a vacuum. I'm creating a vacuum by pushing down, that pushes air in, and then I'm sucking it up with my finger on the top. Sometimes you have to do this 6 to 8 times, but then once it's pumped, because it means that there's an air block in the tube that's going to the product. So you can do that with something that's like that. Yeah, shampoo, I've got some pump-in products for hair. Same thing, doesn't work, and the client or you are frustrated because it's not pumping. Just tell her to push it down, or you do it for her. Push it down, put your finger on the spout where it comes out and lift it up with your finger on. So push down with no finger on, put your finger on and let it rise. And within a few seconds, you will have product, and then that air bubble that was in that tube is gone. Okay, that's fairly straightforward. Then there's other products, and sometimes they have pretty different type packaging. This is a vacuum pump, and you know, sometimes you have to pull at the bottom, sometimes you have to twist at the top, but don't be afraid to experiment. This one, the only way I could get it open was through the top, and by the time this was done and it wasn't pumping anymore, I could see inside that there was very, very little. This one has a large opening, so I got my finger in there, but sometimes I'll do a Q-tip and get the last drop out. So that's a different kind of pump. That's called a vacuum pump. Whoops. Okay, here's another vacuum pump that's very interesting. Now again, so I would try twisting, and I know it's a vacuum pump because look, there's no tube going down. But I'm just not sure. I can sort of see in there. But guess what? The bottom came off this. You don't know until you start pulling on things. And if you look in, there's a floor. And with most vacuum pumps, there is some sort of floor. So let's just say I took a pen. I don't know if you can see this. That's the floor right there. And sometimes, even when it's brand new, there gets an airlock within the vacuum, or it's just sucking air instead of the product. So what you do is you give it a little bit of a push, put the lid back on, and try pumping again. And you can use a pen or a pencil and push again. And actually the one way to do it is to have the pump down and then push, because then you can see it should come right out. So that's just so you can see some pumps come apart quite easily. There's another pump here, much the same. Again, it's a vacuum pump, and the bottom, it has a bottom, that's the bottom. And how a vacuum pump works is every time you pump product, the little floor or the bottom rises. So when you're completely done, when you should look in there, you should see the bottom of the floor of the little pump, the little rising part, the circle I'm going to call it. And this one's pretty small, so I would get a Q-tip in there to get out the last drop. Sometimes you can only get out another day's worth. But on the tubes, you can usually get out weeks worth of stuff, or even a month's worth, depending on the product. So don't be afraid to take your products apart. Now we have one in that I've worked with before. that has a little window on the side. Again, it's a vacuum pump. You pump and it rises, but sometimes people have problems with it. So of course I would suggest pump down, put your finger on, let it rise, you know, do this. But if you're totally frustrated and that's not working, this one twists apart and look what comes out. Now you get a feel for exactly how these are made. There's a clear tube. There's the flooring. Okay, actually that isn't the flooring. That's something that I need to get off to get at the flooring. The flooring is, I don't think I can take this one apart any further. This lid doesn't come off. But if I got my nail or a nail file and you just find a little dent in here, you pop that off, the bottom off, and then you can, again, take a pen, because all you'll see is the bottom of that vacuum pump, and you can push it up. This one is all the way up. So just so that you know, sometimes the, as in this last one, where's the last one I did? I think it's this one. Yeah. Sometimes, get my pen out. There's the bottom on that one, right? If I pull this out, oh, see, it's just a little floor, and it's the vacuum that goes up and down, okay? But it shouldn't be low power, whatever. This one isn't, so you'd have to take this little plastic piece off to get at the pump. So think of yourself as a Sherlock Holmes, solving the riddle of how to get a pump to work. This is another one. It's what I call it, the spaceship one, because it's got the circle, has a pump. No, I can't remember, I think, how this works. Yeah. This one, I was unable to take it apart any further than taking just off the top. So how would I best deal with this one? Okay, before I would take it apart, I would do my pump, put my finger on, pump, put my finger on, and I would keep doing that until it would work, and it did work. But when it's not when it's pumping and it starts to sputter, that means like you're at the end of the product. So that's when I'll take it apart and I'll see that the flooring is quite up, but there's still some product stuck to the edges. And I think that's it. So we did bottles, we did tubes, we did pumps, and remember, a pump with one of these, like a little plastic tube. Make sure that it's not flat on the bottom. Cut it at 45-degree angle, and all with any kind of pump. Pump first and put your finger on it. Pump first, finger on, and don't release that finger till you felt it come right to the top, and that way you create a vacuum and you'll have your product. Okay, now I've done it. Now I can throw out all these bottles I've been saving. So I hope this is helpful to you, and whatever products you use for your house, for your body, for your hair, for your face, whatever. Oh, last tip. Let's say you drop your pressed powder, or you drop your blush, which is in a compact. What do I do with this? It's all shattered. What I've learned, I think on YouTube, it says you spray it with alcohol, rubbing alcohol, and just push it together. No, it doesn't look as good as when you first bought it, but you can get it to mesh again, and it's still very viable. So, last tip for the day on blush. Okay, hope you have a good weekend. Enjoy getting that last drop out of everything that you buy. Okay, bye-bye.